My mother is one of those people who will hold on to familiar technology until advances push her forward, usually against her will. In her opinion, a cell phone only needs to make calls, though texting can come in handy sometimes. She didn't think upgrading from dial-up was important until 2008. And when she might miss a TV show, she doesn't TiVo it or catch it later on Hulu. She programs the VCR and records it on one of her collection of blank cassette tapes. She simply doesn't heed the drive towards the digital world. My mother aside, more and more people are making the shift to accessing media purely through digital sources. But how fast is this digital migration happening? Will the majority of our media consumption across all platforms soon come mainly through cyberspace? One of the most dramatic transitions has come in the form of the death of newspapers. Since the growth of 24-hour news channels, and then the creation of internet news sites, people are turning less and less to the paper at the end of the driveway. As people turn away, so do advertisers, and the money earned decreases dramatically. Revenue from newspapers was only $34 billion in 2011, half of what it had been in 2000. Many larger city papers, including the Minneapolis Star-Tribune and the Chicago Sun-Times, have been forced to file bankruptcy. To combat this, some papers have put their online version behind a paywall, even offering a combined subscription that allows full access to the site as well as a delivered paper. Others have split up their news, putting breaking news online where people can access it instantly, and more analytical and fluff pieces in print for the next day. They are doing their best to make up for the decline in subscriptions and sales, but it's not always enough. Even Clark Kent got so frustrated with some of the practices of modern journalism that he quit the Daily Planet in October of 2012. Other forms of print media are faring much better, but even those are bowing to the times. A study by Hui Li, a member of the Business, Economics, and Public Policy Department at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, revealed a speedy adoption of e-readers among those who consider themselves both avid and average readers across all genres. What's interesting about e-readers is that they're not simply ripping the sales away from physical books. 2/3 of the sales of ebooks are digital reprints of physical copies, but the other third are books only available in digital format. These are the books that may not have been worth a physical printing, but can be sold in cyberspace, where the material is much cheaper to produce. In fact, as long as ebook prices stay relatively low, Lee predicts that both physical and electronic book sales will continue to rise. Between the people who enjoy the feel of a book in their hands and the vast array of titles not available online, paper books are in no danger of disappearing anytime soon. While ebook sales are estimated to total $1 billion this year, sales from the entire book industry are usually around $19 billion. Granted, that probably includes the coffee mugs and calendars you can pick up at Barnes & Noble as last-minute Christmas gifts, but it's not like you can download a coffee mug. The medium that often gets forgotten in this great digital migration is cable. I returned to my mother and her cassette tapes, as well as her refusal to get a DVR because it costs too much. Granted, a standard 4-pack of 8-hour tapes runs about $20 at Walmart, and she'll re-record over them to her heart's content. However, many others are so used to DVR, they don't even think about missing their favorite shows by not being at home. Young adults are taking this one step further. Some households, including my own, have opted out of having cable on the grounds of never watching it. Instead, we stream our shows. Websites like Hulu and Netflix offer plenty of options, all completely authorized. On the less authorized side, there are other streaming sites, such as Putlocker, SockShare, VidBucks, and the late Megavideo. Cable is by no means in danger of failing, not with over 100 million subscribers in the US alone. But as prices continue to climb, the more tech-savvy of their customers are more likely to cut some of their ties and stick with internet and streaming their shows. The digital migration of media is inevitable. Social media is certainly helping it along. When you're already sitting at your computer, it's easy to link a news article on Facebook or share a streaming link to your favorite show on Tumblr. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're losing the current methods of media delivery. It simply means that the current methods will continue to change to compensate for the presence of digital options. Digital media will grow around traditional methods like a vine grows around a tree. Some of the trees may get choked out, but others will continue to thrive, regardless of the encroaching powers. However, there will come a day, probably within the next 10 years, when the majority of media is digitized, and I will know that day. It's the day my mother puts away her VHS tapes for good.